Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Google Ads stream number 4. And we would be talking about one of the most important topics that you would ever come across as far as Google Ads is concerned. You can pretty much assume that without an understanding of this topic, you can pretty much give up your plans to excel at Google Ads. Why am I saying that it is that important? Because this forms the foundation for you to understand what ads run where, what networks are good for your business goals. If you want to get more views or if you want to get branding as a goal, which platform should you go for? Along with that, you should also keep in mind if lead generation is my goal, which network is best suitable. This understanding of Google networks is primarily important and it will directly impact your business goals. So without any delay, let's get started and let's understand what the whole fuss about Google networks is and why is it so important for you to understand how to work with Google networks. So all of us understand and we have experience as far as identifying Google ads, because we have seen Google ads on Google search. We have also seen Google ads on other websites. For example, if you look at Forbes.com or BusinessInsider.com, we have seen ads on other networks. Where else have you seen ads? If you have no clue about Google Discover, I think it's worth a try to understand what Google Discover is. Google Discover can be assumed as the social face of Google. It has a feed depending upon what your browsing history has been, what did you research more about, and it starts showing you content related to that. So you can also run ads on Google Discover. Along with that, the most important platform is YouTube. Because without YouTube, I don't think many of the brands would have risen to the top position today. And along with that, you can show your ads on mobile apps. Now, these are networks. Should I call these networks or should I call these or areas where Google ads can show? I think we can assume that these are all the places where you have seen Google ads, right? Now, any advertiser who wants to run ads, if I am an advertiser, I can decide upon where I want to advertise depending upon what my business goals are. For example, if I want a lot of branding to be done for my new product that I have launched, I think probably a YouTube would make more sense. Search is where people already know about your brand and they're trying to search for your brand. Since I'm a new brand, I'm trying to look at getting a lot of branding done. I don't think it's very reasonable to go ahead and advertise on search because people don't know about your brand. In that case, maybe I can look at this option where I can show ads on others' websites, because others' websites like Forbes, Business Insider, and any other website which is related to your business. For example, this is just an example. If you are somebody who is a service provider who provides carpenters for households and other platforms, probably you can show your ads on IKEA because that's where a lot of people come who are interested in furniture. And if you have a mobile specific requirement in terms of an app that you want to promote, or if it's a mobile game that you would want to promote, or an app like an e-commerce app that you want to promote, mobile apps undoubtedly is a better option. Now, how do I classify this and how do I put it into a format that makes more sense than racking our brains about all of these platforms and understanding each of these platforms? So I have a simple way to take care of that. So let me show you what I mean. So what I mean by having a simple way is, let's not get into the nitty-gritties of what these platforms are at this point in time. Let's start classifying Google networks into different buckets. Now, if you look at all Google networks to be holding your ads on their respective platforms, now let's say Google networks can be divided into, for example, Google search is the primary network that we spoke about, which means that you can look at Google ads on google.com, which is search. Showing your ads on others' websites is called as display network, because that's where your ads are being displayed. Now, YouTube is one of the biggest contributors to this. Then you have Discover. Then you have your apps or Play Store, or showing your ads on others apps. Or for example, I'm sure if you have downloaded an app, you will see an ad for a game or an app that's related to it. So these kind of things can be done using mobile networks Now, fine. So we understood Google networks are. So okay, does that mean that we can go ahead and start straight away advertising in each of these platforms and start getting results and working wonders? Absolutely not. You need to understand what each of these platforms are. How do they work? What is the primary element that your campaign should have? Now, the most important network, the most important thing rather, any Google campaign that you create, right? Any Google campaign will have access to all these networks, which means if you are an advertiser with a Google account and if you want to create a campaign, you will have the option to create all these kinds of campaigns based upon a search campaign or a display campaign, YouTube campaign, Discover campaign, or apps campaign. Now, as the sound already, I'm pretty sure that you already understood. By the way they sound, each of them have a different functionality, which means Google search ads will only show on google.com. So that's very important to understand. So it will show on google.com or your respective domains like google.in, google.com.au, google.sg, etc. And it will also start showing on certain search partners that Google have. For example, you have AOL.com and you also have something called as ask.com. Now, if you that means that if you have created a Google Ads campaign and if you are creating a search campaign, your ads are also eligible to show on your search partner websites like AOL.com and ask.com. Fine. So let's come to the next section a little later, but we need to understand what display network means. Display basically talks about showing your ads on other websites, right? If I am somebody who is an author, if I've written a new book and if I want to promote my new book, probably a website like goodreads.com would be reasonable because that's where I show my ads. And we will talk about a lot of other examples related to display network, about the primary difference between search and display, because you don't need to understand how different YouTube, Discover and mobile apps are, because they are already different and it's pretty easy for us to understand the demarcation. But the clear demarcation has to be understood between search and display, so we would be talking about in the next couple of minutes to come. Now, when I say show ads on others' websites, you need two things. First, you need a permission from these guys so that you can advertise on those websites. Second, they should be related to your business. I can't show my ads about, let's say, kidnapping children. You can't show these ads anyway, but let's say if I can't show ads about kidnapping children on a website that talks about play schools and preschools, right? It's such a blunder. And I can't talk about, let's say, pregnancy and pregnancy related issues and anything of that sort, any product or service related to that. I can't talk about that on, let's say, a furniture website. It doesn't make sense, right? It's not that you can't show, you can't choose. There are probabilities and possibilities where your ad will show on these websites, but at the end of the day, what value are you bringing to yourself? Do you fancy burning money on these websites without getting anything in return? I highly doubt that. So you need to keep these two things in mind. First, you need to have a permission from the guy who is owning that website to show your ads on his website, number one. Number two is you need to have a clarity on the website or the domain where you're running your ads. Is it related to your product, at least complementing your product? YouTube, of course, clearly talks about running ads on others' YouTube videos or YouTube channels. You can also show ads on others' YouTube channels. Along with that, you can also show your ads on YouTube homepage, right? And this is called as masthead, right? If you have trouble understanding what I mean, so if you go to youtube.com, if this is the website, these are all your video thumbnails that YouTube suggests you, right? And here you will see an ad. Probably the famous ads that you would have seen here are from Pepsi, Centerfresh, Netflix, right? Those are the ads. This is called as a masthead. Discover, I told you, you can run all ads on content that you have browsed recently, and you can also run on mobile apps, so there is nothing that you need to very specifically understand here. Now, here is where a little more clarity is needed in terms of when you talk about search ads. Okay, fine. What is important? I need to advertise on Google Search Network. So you need to understand what is more important here. So what is a primary requirement? Along with that, you also need to understand what format of ads can I show, right? That is very important for you to understand. Now, if I go to google.com, if I fold my hands and I hope with the recent machine learning and artificial intelligence technologies, if I hope Google can read my mind and search for a keyword that I would really want to go for, I'm being foolish. That doesn't happen. So you need to understand, as long as you don't give in a keyword or you don't put in a keyword, Google search is not going to do anything. So if you want to show ads on Google search, your campaign should for sure have something called as keywords, without which Google will not have any idea as to show what to show to your advertisers, to your users. The format of Google search network is you will only see text ads, and you will only see something called as PLAs or shopping ads or product listing ads. If you go to your google.com and search for buy shoes, you will either see text ads, you may also see thumbnails of different shopping websites like Amazon, Flipkart, Macy's, Target, etc. Now, you will not see an image ad. You will never see an image ad on google.com because it's not a network that will support that kind of format. Next, talking about the permission that I need from the advertisers, you don't have to worry about it because Google has already sorted it. Because you're advertising through Google, Google has spoken to a lot of advertisers who are called as publishers, which let's also make a note of that. So your ads will show on related publisher websites, right? Anybody who is willing to show or let Google show ads on their websites is called as a publisher. Now, Google has spoken to a lot of publishers, gotten their permissions. They're okay with, they have agreements written, they have agreements signed between both of these parties, and your ads can show on these websites. Now, what's in it for him? Why will he do that? If you were a publisher, would you let anybody put their ads on your website? Absolutely no. So there is something that these guys get in return. So what these guys get in return is when somebody comes to their website and clicks on your ad is showing on their website. So when a user comes and clicks on their ad, Google will charge you, right? Out of which Google will give some share to the publisher. So that's their interest. That's, in other words, called as AdSense, right? Now we will talk about this in the next slide also. So we need to talk about the arrangement between these guys. So let's remember this so that we don't forget. Okay. And now what is the format? What is important? It is important because Google has to decide where to show your ads. Now for Google to decide, it needs some context. When it needs context, agreed that you have a website, but Google doesn't have time to go to your website, read your website, then come to your AdWords campaign, then decide what to show. So you need to give a set of related keywords here as well for Google to decide where to show. Number one, if you know where to show, if you know what kind of websites are suitable for your ads to be shown upon, why don't you give those websites directly to Google and say, please show my ads on these websites, which is called as placements. Third, you can set a defined audience and say that show my ads to these people who fall under this category of audience. We will talk about it a lot in the further sessions to come. Apart from that, you can also choose certain topics where you say people who fall under people who fall under the category of online shoppers, show my ads to them. That could be done. Along with that, you could also show people based upon the demographics, age group, gender, location, etc. Right? Now, formats, you need to understand what formats are suitable. You will show text ads, you will show image ads or the display ads. In some websites, you can also show video ads, right? And Google is working upon a lot of shopping related ads that could also show on Google's display networks. So these are the formats that could show on others' websites as a part of the Google display network. Now, YouTube, agreed, YouTube ads can either show on youtube.com or they can show on other video partnered websites. Now, what kind of formats? You can also show, for YouTube also you can give them keywords so that Google can decide where to show. If you know where to show, you can give those YouTube channels, or you can also give YouTube individual video URLs for Google to target. You can also target based upon topics or audiences. Right, guys? I hope you understand. You can, when I say that you can you can either give keywords, placements, audience, topics. You also need to understand. You can also give a combination of these things. You can give keywords and placements. and you can, let's say, you can give keywords and audiences. You do a mix and match of these things. Now, Discover and apps, we will talk about it later, because once you get a clarity on these things, I think you will pretty much understand what we're talking about here. Now, I hope this makes sense. Now, just to a quick recap, anybody who is running a Google campaign, you need to understand what Google networks are. Your campaign can be eligible to show ads on the search network, display network, YouTube, and Discover, and mobile apps. Now, search network means that your ads will only show on the Google properties in terms of google.com, google.com.au, google.singapore, google.brazil, etc. And it's called as search network ads, which means they can also show on search partner websites like AOL.com and ask.com. You need to have keywords for a Google ad to run. You cannot run a Google Ads campaign in the search network without having a keyword. Now, the format of ads that could show are the text ads and shopping ads. Now, in terms of display network, display basically means that your ads can show on other websites. You need permission for those websites, but Google will take care of it, which I promised you to talk about later. Now, you should also pick websites, or it is profitable if you show ads on related websites which complement your product or directly related to your product. Now, you can either give keywords in the campaign, you can give placements in the campaign, you can give audiences, topics, etc. Now, it is pretty okay if you don't understand what this jazz about keywords, placements, audience, topics is, but if you understand basically what the basic difference is, that your ads can show on Google Search Network when people search for keywords, your ads can show on Display Network, which is other websites which Google has already spoken and agreed upon. If you understand that, I'm pretty okay with that at the moment, because we will anyways be talking about these things in detail going forward and in the sessions to come. I hope you have understood these things, and if you still have any questions, you can always feel free to email me. Now, you can reach me at kc@titans.digital. All right. Fine. Let's just take a screenshot of this just in case we need it for future reference, or in case you want me to send it across to you. So let's take a done. All right. Save. Got it. All right, so let's clear the screen. If you want to take a look at it, you can just take one final look at it before I erase it. Gone. Now, we needed to understand the basic and a high level difference between how Google Search works and Google Display works, right? So this, ladies and gentlemen, is Google Search. And on the other hand, you have the Google Display Network. It's very, very simple. Unless you don't complicate it for yourself. There is a user, goes to google.com, puts in a keyword, starts seeing some ads, and if he's interested, he will click on any of these ads. He goes to the website of the advertiser. Right? It's as simple as this. Now, when the click happened, Google will obviously charge the advertiser some amount. I don't know why I always put in $0.02. Now, so this money goes to Google, and if this guy buys anything or purchases anything from the website, that will directly go to the advertiser. That's how it works, right? Now, this is search. For search to function, you need to understand the actual activity got triggered here, where somebody put in a search query, which means you need to have a keyword for somebody to search your ad, right? So without this keyword, nothing happens. So if you are an advertiser, this guy is an advertiser, so he has to come up with a list of all these keywords which better describe his business, so that he can get more and more people to click on his ads, so that he can make more and more sales. Now, it also means Google will also get more and more money, right? This is basically how a Google Search Network works. Now, Google Display, on the other hand, has a very, very interesting proposition, which means that if you are an advertiser, right, you have a product or a service, right? With Display Network, Google gives you the ability to show your ad on a lot of other websites, Okay. Now this is a publisher. 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 How do you know a list of all these websites? It's not that we understand everything about all the websites in the world, so we have no clarity on these things by default. So Google gives you some tools where you can find a list of these websites, right? Now, along with that, you have to keep in mind that if you don't want to do all this, you can simply give a list of keywords that define your business, and Google will go ahead and start finding these publishers for you, right? However, please be informed that Google will not have the same clarity you have about your business. Google will not clearly understand what your exact requirement is, though Google is smart. So if you don't want this to happen where Google is deciding things for you, you can go ahead and find out a list of all the placements that suit you or your business. And how do you do that? Based upon these tools. All right. Similar, let's hold on to audiences and topics later because that's not very important at the moment. Let's only start focusing on how these networks work. Now, the moment you start creating a display campaign based upon your keywords, if you want Google to decide, it will base it upon the keywords and come up with a list of publishers. If you don't want to give that control away to Google, you can decide what placements you want to show your ad upon. Placements basically means websites. And you can start showing your ads on these platforms. It's as simple as that, right? Now, what is the big fuss about? Okay, this is a publisher's website and he has written about something. Let's say he has written about 10 reasons or 10 ways to have beer, right? Why not? Now, 10 ways to have beer is a website, is a publisher. So let's call him the beer guy, beerguy.com. That's his website. Now you, on the other hand, are an advertiser, right? And what you do is you make beer mugs, right? All right. Now let's see if I am able to. All right. Not bad. Okay. That's your beer. And that's your froth. All right. Now you make beer mugs and your beermugs.com and he's beerguy.com. Now, don't you think your website would actually start making good profit by showing your ad here? Because who are the people who come here? These are all the people who are either interested in beer or people who are interested in knowing about beer or people who are interested in having beer, plain and simple, like you and I. Now, since there is a possibility that these guys would come to this website frequently to read, Google thinks it's a good idea for your ad talking about beer mugs to show on his website here, right? I personally feel it's a brilliant way to advertise because without hassle, without too much of hassle, without having to pursue people, without having to push people, all you need to do is you need to manage to find websites like these. So tomorrow you find something called as a wineguy.com because he talks about wine. Then you talk about somebody who is a scotchguy.com because he talks about scotch. And maybe you have glasses which are talking about wine glasses, etc., etc., etc. So I think that's how you, let's say, okay, guys, forgive my bad art. I don't even know if this is a wine glass. Right. So this is how you try going ahead and mapping to these people because they are talking about things that you may be related in, your product is related to, right? At the same time, also understand there is no point in showing my ad on a hospital's website, right? It doesn't make any sense. Why will a hospital's website, or what impact will it have to my business if a hospital's website has a beer mug ad on his website? Now let's say if this guy is don'tdrink.com, right, which is a hospital, of course, there's no point in showing my ad here because it will not suffice me in any way. It will not suffice my purpose. So you have to be careful to figure out websites like these which will add value to your business, and you can definitely take Google's help through your placements or keywords and etc. Now, agreed your beer mugs, agreed you're a good product, agreed you're a very important product, agreed he has a good website which is talking about things. Now, why should he keep your website here, right? Now, that's not between you and him. That's exactly where Google comes in between. So what Google does is Google basically has gotten into an agreement with him where both of them engage that please show this ad here. If this guy pays me $1, maybe I will give you, again, my favorite number, I will give you $0.02. Now that's the arrangement between both of these guys. Now this is bad. Let's make it 20 cents. So for every dollar that Google makes, Google is ready to give 20 cents to this guy so that he is happy at the end of the day, and Google is happy at the end of the day, and you, beermugs.com, is also happy at the end of the day. So that's the equation in why should other websites let you show your ads on them, on their websites. This is primarily the reason, and they would be more than happy to do it. Now, this program where Google gets into an engagement with the publisher, let's say Google and the publisher get into this agreement. This is the website guy and this is Google. This whole mechanism falls under something called as Google AdSense, and there are a lot of people making tons of money through that, right? So this is something which I thought you should really understand before you go ahead and create your first campaign, and even before you talk about keyword finding, tips to find better keywords and how do you group them. And before we start that, I think this should be your primary understanding. As I said, if you have any questions related to Google Networks, and then if you want to know anything about Google Networks, please don't hesitate to drop me an email at kc@titans.digital. I'll be more than happy to respond to you. I hope you enjoyed this stream, guys. Thank you so much. If you have any feedback, please don't hesitate to share, because that would make it better for everybody else around. Cheers then. I'll see you again. Have an awesome day and have a great weekend. And please don't forget to go through these streams as and when you receive them. Cheers. My name is Casey, signing off.